time has come, we've had some fun.
It's time for the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Here with a load of laughs, info, and fun, it's Tony B, Dave B, and Timmy D.
Before I go alone. Don't ask me this and one more song. It ain't too costly, no, I ain't too cheap, so just relax. I'm on my knees.
Welcome to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast, episode number 112. 112, David.
112.
Man, 112. You can play that in a pick three. Maybe box it, maybe win something. Live at the Great Divide in downtown Indianapolis. We are inside the Great Divide. My name is Tony B. Alongside me is David B. Timmy D is out. Filling in for him is the legendary
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. We're glad he's back. Is Matt G. And also on mic 4 today,
Number 2.
is Mechanic Bill. He's number 1 in our hearts, though.
Yeah. Well, he's sitting here.
He's number 4 today, though. He's on mic 4.
Right.
I'm the only number 2 in the.
Bill, are you okay with
Hall
being
of
number
Fame.
4 today? All right, number 4 today. So we're going to catch up with Bill, but we're happy to have Matt G here. And then Francois should be in soon, and we'll catch up with him as well. Topics today: Yellow Roadway Holland has ceased operations. We'll see what the next phase is. And then Francois and Mechanic Bill. But we're glad to have Matt G here today, David. And he'll give us some updates with the Yellow as well, because he was a longtime worker at Yellow, and we'll catch up.
I'm
with
going to
him.
guess that Matt's got some things to say, and it's going to be good to kind of get a different
bit.
perspective on some things. So,
I think so.
so this show, along with all of our other shows, it's brought to you by The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Great place to go after a Ship's Gonna Happen week. Great place to go to unwind, get a great meal, hear some good music, chat it up with the locals. Jen and her staff are awesome to us. They always have been. If you're ever in Indianapolis, swing by there, get a good meal, and tell them that the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast sent you. Matty G, you got anything you need to say this morning? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you,
Hey,
brother.
it's good to see you
See you
guys.
kind of on some different terms.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Absolutely.
For those of you that are new to the podcast or don't listen very often, Matt's kind of Tim's normal fill-in, and then Matt was a longtime employee of the Yellow Corporation.
Yeah, what was your title exactly?
I was the area sales director. Yeah.
Big role.
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
the last month? And I know you probably got a ton of things to say. What's the last month been like for you?
It's been a roller coaster for sure. I guess first thing to say is that it's good to be doing this show from the Great Divide.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty cool.
Even though it's a little early, we've still got the beer going.
Yes, there we go.
And I
Yep.
guess I should say that the beer, for some reason, tastes a little bit better when you're unemployed.
What is,
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
that's what Jimmy Buffet says, right? It's
There we go.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Did you just literally say Jimmy Buffet?
Buffet?
Yeah,
Did you
Buffet.
just, yeah.
I
Buffet.
did.
Buffet.
I do not like Jimmy Buffet.
What's
Go ahead.
what's the former punter for the Colts? What's his name?
Oh,
Has his own podcast, his own radio show. I love.
I love the show.
Yes.
McAfee.
Pat,
Yeah,
thank
but-
you,
but-
McAfee.
yeah, but-
Pat McAfee.
Tony, damn it,
McAfee.
Bill. Yeah.
McAfee.
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 Hey, McAfee.
McAfee.
Yeah. All good. Anyway, let's get back to Matty.
Come on,
Ice.
Matt.
Let's get back
Yeah.
to Matty.
Hit us.
I guess to answer your question, the last month was a lot of roller coasters of emotion, especially the last couple of weeks. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, is pissed off the main emotion, or
Yeah, I think gone through several emotions here at the end. I think obviously pissed off is one of them. Sad, I guess, is another. I guess those are probably the two. I think, it's probably more sadness when you're not thinking about it, but the more you think about it and put your thoughts behind it, that's where more your pissed off comes out, because I don't think it needed to happen. But no, it was kind of a roller coaster, because there towards the end, it was like, okay, we might be going on strike. That was basically the I guess, I got laid off last Friday. And so that week before, I was on vacation So when I come off vacation, that Sunday was that threat of that strike.
Yeah.
So I wasn't working that week, but they had put out a strike notice. I believe it was Monday night, Tuesday of that week, and we lost about. We were typically, I would say, somewhere on the LTL side of the business. We were probably somewhere between 40 to towards the end of the month, pushing 50,000 bills a day. And from that Monday night when they gave that notice to that Friday before the strike notice was going to go into play, we were down to about 10,000 bills. So in about 3 days,
Wow.
we lost about 80% of our bill count. And that Sunday night, or sometime, I guess it was probably Sunday afternoon, they called off the strike notice. But really at that point,
Damage.
that was the nail in the coffin, because at that point, and I'll get, I'm kind of speaking facts now. I'm going to speak facts, and then I'm going to give you my opinion.
Right.
So it was at that point, that Sunday night, that the Teamsters decided to actually sit down and negotiate. But really, for all intents and purposes, it was done, because when we lost that bill count, the lender, Apollo, saw the deterioration, and we had we actually had something from Apollo, and this is what I heard, is that they had $2 billion set aside to reinvest in us, but that was all contingent on everything being done with the union and having our, what we called internally, it was our phase 2. It was our last move to get where we wanted to be. And there was going to be some operational changes in there, especially from a line haul piece.
I'm sure, yeah.
But at that point, when they finally sat down and actually started negotiating over the next couple of days, I think Apollo saw where our bill count went, and they actually literally, before we were done negotiating, they pulled the offer off the table. And so when they pulled the offer off the table, that was it.
Yeah.
That was all she wrote. And so the last week, Tuesday, I was actually in the office, and it was probably around like noon. We got news that we were going to cease picking up freight. So we had all our drivers on the street, and the word came down that we were not going to be picking up any business, because obviously that was telling us that at this point going forward, we were just going to be cleaning out the system.
Wow.
So and our job lasted until Friday when we were laid off. But that strike notice really was the nail in the coffin. That ran off the business, which then in turn Apollo pulled that offer off the table. And we, whether or not we would have actually came to some kind of agreement with the Teamsters, and I'll get into my opinion, we were not. That wasn't going to happen. But at that point, it was too late. And then at that point, it was scramble mode. I think our CEO, board members were scrambling, trying to see if we could get something done through the U.S. government. I'm sure they knocked on probably every senator's door, the U.S. Treasury, everybody trying to see if we could get a lifeline. There was no lifeline out there to be had. And so now for some reason, I think, I don't know why we haven't actually filed for bankruptcy. I say we, I'm no longer part of them, but why they haven't filed for bankruptcy, I think it's going to happen. I know Apollo's doing some moves in the background, I think, trying to basically position themselves to where when the bankruptcy settles, they're going to be the one being able to not only get their money back, but from what I hear, and I don't know how accurate the numbers are, but I think we had about $1.3 billion in debt. About 600 of that was with Apollo, but supposedly, and I find it hard to believe, but we have a little over $2 billion in assets to be had. So I think Apollo not only is trying to put themselves in position to get back their $600 million, but also be the one that probably could cash in on another $500 million.
I was going to ask
assets.
you about that, Matt, because that same company has an investment of about $900 million into XPO.
Yeah, well, I think it's MNF or something like that.
Yeah, it's another.
So
different
I don't know if
investment
maybe
group.
there's a struggle here where people are trying to position themselves to be able to get their hands on the, once all the debt's paid off, like I said, there could be an additional $500 million worth of money sitting out there for somebody.
Yeah.
And I'd be speaking over my head because I don't understand that level of, finances within companies and how that works with the stock and everything. So, but at this point, it's just the millionaires trying to figure out how they're going to get their more millions at this point. But the company's done. So I know some people were like, hey, maybe they're going to restructure.
So what about you though? What happens to you? So you're called and told you don't have a job anymore.
July the 28th is your last day, or was your last day?
Yeah. So whatever that Friday was, I guess that was July 28th. So
severance, anything like that?
Yeah, so they broke it out by years of service, and then also if you were a director or VP level, you got something different. So as a director, I got 6.5 weeks of severance.
Nice.
And then also, which we haven't got our PTO yet, but from what I hear, it's coming. But also any unused PTO. So for me, that'd be another 3.5 weeks. So I'll have probably about 10 weeks of equivalent 10 weeks of pay. So got to find something in 10
yeah.
Well, now 1 week's gone, so now I got to find something in 9 weeks. So
pressure. You got kids. You got family.
Obviously. So, yeah. But no, I think if we get into my opinion, here's
Go
ahead.
Hang on before that.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
So was it doing okay?
Yeah, I guess it's mixed up the signals, but it's
So is there
it's
good
coming
sales
through.
jobs out there for you?
Well,
Hang on. So we'll get back to Matt. You were going to give your personal opinion.
Yeah.
Are we
Right?
go?
We're good. I'm recording.
Okay.
We're recording.
All right.
It's working.
Okay.
Francois has entered the building. Woo-hoo!
Hey, everybody, Francois.
The number he's number one. Bill.
There we go. Thank you.
He's number one. The number one
friend
man from France. He's the
Thanks, Jen.
French American number one citizen. Yeah.
So anyway,
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say
Your personal opinion.
So I want to make sure that I'm saying opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want there to be what you got libel,
controversy.
Libel. What's the other one? You've got libels.
Slander.
Yeah, slander. Slander's
libel.
by verbal, right? And then libels in writing,
right.
So I want to make sure I'm delicate as I'm saying. Put a big asterisk here saying that this is opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to be? You don't want to be delicate, though, do you?
No, I really don't want to be delicate, but I do want to say that I believe it's my opinion.
Yes.
So, just to kind of back up and kind of show, I guess, kind of the chronological order of what happened here with what was going on with Yellow and the Teamsters. So this goes back to probably, I think the plan for a long time had been to bring YRC Freight and the regionals, which were Holland, New Penn, and Redaway, all under one umbrella.
Right.
Right.
Go ahead.
Which, then they were trying to decide what that was going to be, which they finally...
How long were you there?
So I was there for just a little over 10 years.
Okay.
So 10 years, 3-4 months.
Just let me preface this. When the early time when it happened, the higher ups at Roadway always talked about they left. Before they left, they kept talking about they'll never be able to get this small enough, quick enough. So they left. And I always was like bewildered by that. Like, why would you want to cut? At the time, it was 50, 60,000 employees. Mm-hmm. And it was like, why would you? But it all makes sense in retrospect, though. But
yeah, so, the biggest reason why we were trying to do that is it was duplication of cost.
Right.
If you think about it, here just in Indianapolis alone, we had two facilities. We had a Holland facility and a YRC Freight facility. They both had the same service area.
Right.
So you've got YRC Freight every day delivering and picking up
Thanks, Jen.
in the exact same customers that a terminal for Holland, which was less than 5 miles away, was serving the exact same area. So you had, a Holland driver and a freight driver both going into the same customers every single day, delivering and picking up. You just think about the duplication of cost. No, go ahead.
No, I know. Yeah, because I went from roadway to Holland, right?
Yep.
And what I noticed, okay, so roadway back in the day, because I love this subject,
Yeah.
we were doing 14, or wait, hang on, about 2,400 pickups in the city a day at roadway, okay?
Yeah.
Probably half to a little bit of half was local paid. When I went to Holland, I was baffled that Holland doubled our pickups
Oh, yeah.
because of just the regional next day stuff that we didn't get. So when trying to mix that in, it's not that easy.
No, but I would say that we had a lot of people over a period of time that were doing the math and figuring out how to split up these areas. So Indianapolis, for example, we knew how that was going to be split up. So the YRC freight terminal was going to be basically, and I know for those that are not in Indianapolis area, this is not going to make any sense, but if you're from Indianapolis, you know the geography of Indianapolis. The YRC freight terminal, which was by the airport on the west side, was going to be handling basically Plainfield, Park 100 up to Lebanon, and then Brownsburg area and Danville, and then back kind of around to 70.
Woohoo, Lebanon!
Yeah, so back around to 70. That's really kind of a small area because Holland was going to have all the rest. But if you split up the business, that tells you how much business is going in and out of Plainfield and all along Park 100 and up Whitestown and into Lebanon. There was enough of that business in that small footprint that it could allow for Holland to be able to handle the rest of it. So,
We should write a song, "The Legend of Lebanon."
Yeah.
I would want it to be sorry, I'm going off here, but like a nice little Hispanic, maybe a little tone to it.
The
Yeah.
legend.
Little
Get the
mandolin
Budos
playing
playing.
Carlos
Yeah.
Santana,
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah.
Go ahead, though.
But no,
Mariachi
so
band.
yeah. So that duplication of cost was a big part of why they wanted to do. I mean, we were throwing millions and millions of dollars away every year just on that alone. So just
Since day one.
Yeah, so just to do that piece alone made sense, right?
Right.
So that would have lowered cost. The other big part of bringing them together was also to improve the service and, for our customers, to make us more competitive against the competition out there, specifically non-union competition that was just wearing us out. And so when Hoffa was still in place with the Teamster, Hoffa Jr., through our early problems that we had like in 13 and 14, again, where we were almost going into bankruptcy back then, he actually worked with the company to try to help us survive. And he did. Now, there was we had to get some givebacks from the union. We also had to, but in exchange, we also put 2 board of directors from the Teamsters on our board, right? So there's, number one, we're a publicly traded company, so you can't hide numbers. But even if you're trying to negotiate with somebody, think about playing poker, and I have my whole cards, you got your whole cards, but I get to see your whole cards.
Right.
I mean, how hard is it for me to figure out how to play you, right? Well, they literally had 2 Teamsters on the board of directors. So they're completely behind the curtains. They see every single thing that we see.
Yeah.
So there's no plausible deniability from the Teamsters to say, well, we didn't know we'd put you out of business, right? Because they saw exactly what was real and what we had. So
we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So getting really into my opinion, here's what I think. We had one left move to do, which was our phase 2, and we had a pre-scheduled meeting with the IBT. I don't know if Sean O'Brien was going to be there or not, who's the current head of the IBT. Yeah. And so that was in April. They, out of the blue, abruptly just canceled the meeting.
The IBT.
Yes,
What's
they
IBT?
canceled.
Indian
That's International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
The brothers.
Yeah. So they canceled the meeting. And from what I understand, completely ghosted us going forward. Now, I realize the timing on this was poor because at the same time, you have the UPS contract, which is coming March, I believe. So you had a lot of stuff. I get that the IBT had to negotiate, but they completely ghosted us. So much so that our head of negotiations for labor could not get a hold of the Teamsters, that he actually found out where the head negotiator for LTL was at, and he was in Chicago. I think this was May. Found out that he was in Chicago, found out what hotel he was in, went to the hotel, I guess, early in the morning, just sit in the lobby waiting on this guy to walk down, and finally saw him come down and ambushed him basically to say, hey, we have got to talk. And nothing. They did not want to talk at all. Okay, go ahead.
Do you think they leveraged this with UPS? Do you think this was a play or a ploy?
I think that's the common thought. I don't believe that was.
Okay.
I don't think at all.
I don't see
that this
why,
was.
but yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I do believe a lot of people think that. But I'll get into why I think this whole thing went the way it did. So, so at that point, still nothing. They would not sit down. And we even asked them, we said, would you just allow your union employees at Yellow to just vote on this?
Right.
'Cause we had already laid out for months what we were doing. There was a lot of pushback on the line haul piece, which was going to be our really the key to being able to service the customers better. And there was pushback on that. But we were confident enough with what we had to say, hey, just let them vote. They would not let them vote. Did not let them vote. And all the way up until we went out of business, every single move that the Teamsters did, the employees for Yellow did not have one voice. They did not get to vote on one single thing.
It's amazing.
Including the strike notice.
Yeah.
That was all came down from the Teamsters.
Well, and to have
Every
two people
single
on the
move.
board, you
Yes.
think they would know the dire situation because
Yeah.
they're seeing the same
Yeah.
thing as the president of the company would
Yeah,
be seeing.
absolutely. Right. There's no plausible deniability here from Sean O'Brien.
What do you think the union thought? Like
Well,
in the
this
long
gets into this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. I think.
Let him tell a story, Tony.
So, I guess my point is, I'm trying to paint a picture here that the last 3 to 4 months, there was no help. Yeah, there was no help from Sean O'Brien to save this company at all. Matter of fact, one could look at it the opposite in every action that they took, and so you look at it and you get to the end of this and you say, why? What did he have to gain by putting 22,000 union jobs out?
Yeah.
Because from beginning to end, again, you can't play stupid.
Right.
He knew exactly
Right,
what was
right.
going on. Not allowing the employees to vote is a huge indicator to me that he did not want this to go through.
Why though?
Okay, well, here's my opinion, and I guess you could say this is a conspiracy theory, but here we'll go, and this is why I want to say
The views of Matt
this
G
is-
are purely Matt G's
this-
vision, not the ship's
this
gonna
is-
happen.
This is my opinion. My opinion is this. Go back a few years ago to COVID, right? There was a CARES Act. There was $800 million that the U.S. government gave to businesses that were struggling. 700 million of that went to Yellow. So think about that. 800 million, the U.S. taxpayers' money, 700 of that went to Yellow. Do you want to, well, do you know who the president was at that time?
I already said all this. Yeah, I
Yeah.
already got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Trump.
Yeah. Bill Zollers was directed into the postal office branch. Bill Zollers was friends with Larry Kudlow, who was in the economic side. Larry Kudlow and Kramer, Bill Zillers used to be on that show 24/7. Larry Kudlow actually said one time, Bill, you should be Federal Reserve. You should be chairman of the Federal Reserve. I about fell out of my chair when he said that. But there was a connection there that made that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was definitely connections, you're right, to get that money, right? And so, but I guess my point is that Trump was the president when that $700 million was signed off, right? Well,
you're going a different angle.
I am.
I like
so
it.
now
Okay.
we have a different administration in place.
But they're pro-union.
They are pro-union. But
So
what's a better talking point? To say that, hey, I
Trump-
stepped in and saved
Trump
only
failed it.
22,000 jobs because really, if you look at it versus like the UPS strike that was potential, that's 15 times the amount of employees, right? In the big picture, 22,000 is kind of really small. You're not talking about trying to save
but don't
GM
you think,
like
though-
Obama did, back when he was stepped in on the GM.
But
deal.
don't you think, though, in the defense of the administration doing that back then, and Bill, you jump in here too. Mm-hmm. Remember the backups at the ports, the LTL traffic. I mean, every LTL carrier was maxed. If they don't give Yellow that money back then, I think the LTL industry would have struggled for a year coming out of that.
Yeah.
It would have been longer.
Yeah. And I obviously work for Yellow, right? So I love seeing the lifeline.
Right.
I'm typically
I was just throwing
I'm a capitalist, so I wouldn't have been real big overall to see that lifeline. I guess if it wasn't my own skin that was in the game,
right?
But my point being is my opinion. I think at some point, I don't know when, and I'm going to say probably sometime in the spring. I just think there was probably some conversation between Sean O'Brien, which you're right, they're heavy with the Democrats, from some leadership in the Democratic Party
Decided
that said,
to let it end.
Hey, let this go.
Wow.
Let this go.
You're probably right.
Because a talking point, and this is going to be the proof. This is how you'll know whether or not I'm right. Next year, whoever the Democratic nominee for president is, should be Biden. We'll see. And at this point, I guess I'm a little surprised how much Trump's running away with it. But if it is Trump, that's the key. If it is Trump, and if you hear any talking points come out from the Democratic Party about him giving $700 million of tax funded to a company that was struggling, that then after a couple of years went out of business, and $700 million was, I could see that
because
being
they've already
a talking
used
point.
that. They've already used that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I just
Matt G coming with a left hook.
in my opinion, because if you here's the thing.
It's probably true.
Find a reason why he did what he did. Find a logical reason why because again, you can't play stupidity. Sean O'Brien, he can't play dumb. He knew everything. He knew everything financially where we were at. Every move he made, he did not try to help. Now their side of it is they will say, well, the mismanagement of the company. And yeah, I'm not sitting here trying to defend the company and the head management of the company. There has been some mismanagement, but this is a company that's been, I don't know when it became unionized. I mean, it was a 99-year-old company. You're probably talking 40s.
Yeah.
That's probably when it probably became
once you went into New York back in the day, and
years and years of different work rules that were negotiated out of each of these locals.
I had one I was going to bring up.
Yeah, you've got some locals that wouldn't even allow you to be able to force overtime. So if you didn't have enough employees, you just basically hung it up for the night and said, well, we'll catch up in the morning.
Or one time I had a grievance filed on me. I was the TOM in Indianapolis, and I picked up a piece of wood about 3 foot long or 2 foot long off the dock, had nails sticking out of it.
Threw it away.
Threw it in the trash, and I had a grievance filed on me against the union saying I was taking a job away from the...
Right.
They actually filed a grievance. So then what I did was I countered and said that guy that saw that didn't do anything to prevent a safety violation. And then they dropped it. But I literally had to go to 5 meetings to It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but so
So stupid.
over the years, and I guess you at the end of the day, I guess you do blame it on the management that they kept signing off on these sweet
Sign off in
deals
the
and
union.
these dumb
That's my
deals.
whole thing. They sign off
Yeah.
on the goddamn contract every year.
Yeah. So they put themselves in the position where they were at. So make
Yeah.
no bones about it. And that goes way beyond Darren Hawkins. It goes back however many CEOs. You could hang that hat on every single one of them going
Yeah,
back,
right.
60, 70 years.
Michael
right?
Wickham. Yep.
Right. So
Right.
they're all responsible at the end of the day. But at the end, when it came to the end, not a finger was lifted to negotiate. And then, I think the Teamster release, when they basically were notifying everybody is, hey, we sat down and negotiate Sunday night. Well, that was the first line that they said in that statement. And my question is, why are you saying you just now sat down and negotiate after the strike release was already out?
Right.
That you hadn't literally sat down and had canceled a meeting that we had preset in
Right.
April.
Yeah.
It just, every single move that was made looked like it was trying to drive us out of business.
It does.
And
Yeah.
you can't, I challenge you, come up with a logical reason to say that there's any kind of thought here that he thought he could save the jobs and get something out of it. There was.
So you think there's a political angle to this?
I absolutely
that will come out down the road, and you're probably right, because they've already used that a little bit against him.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
You know,
I never thought of that.
I mean, I don't know if Biden will win again, or if Democrat, whoever it might be, Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever ends up being the
Mike.
Yeah.
I mean,
But whoever it is, we'll
Does
see.
it even matter
You could just
anymore?
see Sean O'Brien sitting in the new Secretary of Labor position. Then you'll be like, oh wow, that makes sense, right?
I mean, your point does make sense, because if you pay attention to what's going on when they catch Hunter Biden in something,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Boom.
a couple
Trump.
days later they got another indictment for
Boom.
Trump.
Yeah.
Something else comes out, another indictment, and something else comes out, another indictment. So, I mean, it's the whole, now they're releasing things where the aliens actually exist. So I always call it the.
Yeah. I
Hey,
got an update
don't
on
watch
that.
what this hand's doing, because this hand's doing okay. It
we
just
talked
Yeah, and like I said, it's my opinion. I can't sit and see anything else that made any sense at all. There's no logical reason.
of Lebanon.
Yeah,
It's his new name, the Legend of Lebanon,
Let me open it for you too.
with the best opener
Here's
ever.
your beer, Tony.
Boom! We're drinking
but
Saturday
yeah,
morning.
that's
Listen, Ship's Gonna Happen.
That's my opinion. I just think.
and I think it has some
we were
logic
doomed,
behind
and
it.
I think we were just set to go out. Especially when you sit there and you say, at no point was there allowed to be a vote.
The lightweight, Jen.
No vote was allowed. There was no voice.
So
from
that's the
actual-
videos that we saw toward the end there, where the union meetings were happening, and then the management was just saying, go talk to your union and vote, because they were trying to get them to vote, just vote, right?
Yeah. Now again, I don't know what would have come of that. I mean, they might have. The yellow might have not won that vote, right? But they were confident enough to push for it.
So now you've got time to look for a job. I know there's a lot of pressure, and you're by the way, Matty G is a very professional individual.
And been in the industry for a very
long
long time.
So, what's it like? Because I had some career changes in my life, and I know the older I got, the harder it got to think about that. And I was asked to do some things, and I chose not to, because I just didn't want to dive into that, type thing. But
Yep.
but what's it like for you right now to be in that situation? I know you're in an early phase of it. And so what's it like emotionally, and what kind of response are you getting out there?
Well, I guess the big thing that I noticed is that the recruiting side of, I'm sure it's just not transportation. I'm just saying recruiting as a whole. I didn't realize how big it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally peppered.
Big in a good way or big in a bad way? Like,
I guess probably it's a good thing.
Okay.
Right.
Mhm.
It's from both angles of it. You got recruiters out there that are trying to do it from the perspective of my position. You also have recruiters out there that are working to try to fill positions for, companies. And so they're trying to find these matches, but it's amazing. That's the thing that I've just in 1 week that's really surprised me. I bet you I've answered at least 50 to 60 different recruiters. Now, some of those were working for, recruiting organizations. That's just what they do. I would say 20 to 30% of them were recruiters within companies. And I've sent my resume out to probably almost all of those. And, for me, I guess, I've tried to, it was kind of overwhelming. So I just took a Word document and kind of typed out kind of a generic statement of what, and I actually kind of spell out what I'm looking for, even down to a salary range, because I'm thinking I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time.
Right, yeah.
If you think, wow, this sounds awesome. The recruiter's really into, then you get passed along to somebody within the company, and then that's going well. And then, you're a week into this and they're like, well, let's talk about salary. And then you realize, hell, we're not even close. Why were we even talking this
It's an entry
long,
level
right?
job. Yeah.
Right. So I've tried
salary.
to outline that and what I've sent back to people just so, again, I'm not wasting their time or mine.
have you had people in the industry that you've known for? Are people genuinely trying to help you out, like a personal relationship? People that you've known in the industry?
Yeah.
Because to me,
It's a
I've
lot of
always said,
networking.
I've always said freight is a fraternity, no matter what side
Yep.
of the fraternity you're on, whether it be on the dock or
Yeah.
sales management or, sales or even truck drivers. It seems fraternal to me, and that everybody is willing. There's a lot of, like I was telling Tim, people want to help you. People want to help
Yep.
you
Yep.
move on, get a job, and succeed. And
It's-
are you
No,
experiencing the same thing?
Yep. Same thing.
Especially that company has a lot of experienced people, right? A lot of well trained people.
Yeah. And and to be honest, I mean, and you probably know this, Tony, from working for them, but when you've had a poor service to sell, it makes you a lot better salesman.
Yeah,
You
you got to work.
And
harder.
I'm not, I worked, so I can say this because I worked for Conway back in the early 2000s
You had
when Conway
immaculate service
was, really, really good. Like when I became
Star.
a terminal manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had to explain.
So you were a terminal manager?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
I was
about
almost
that.
7 years.
Okay.
With him. So
Yeah, I did that.
part of
too.
my
It's a tough job.
Yeah. So I think terminal managers, in my opinion, in the LTL industry have the hardest job
Absolutely.
in this industry.
Me too.
I think as you go up higher on the ops ladder, it actually gets easier,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But terminal managers, bar none, have the hardest job, I think, in the LTL industry. And so, when I was a terminal manager, I'd have to explain every single service failure I had every day, inbound and outbound.
Yep.
And typically it was only 2 or 3 on both the outbound and the inbound because we were running, 97, 98% on time every single day. I can't, if at Yellow, if a terminal manager had to explain every service failure every day, they would
They'd be
literally do
busy.
nothing.
That's all they do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all they would do. Right. So, I mean, they would. I mean, and Dave knows this from the customer standpoint.
Amen.
So,
3 days to Cincinnati. Let's
right.
do it.
So, then you say, well, how do you get, customers like Dave to do business with you? Well, you better be really good at relationships.
Alcohol.
Yeah. Relationships are huge, right?
Yeah.
You better be able to find out creative ways, whether it is some kind of niche from with your service or if it just comes down to price. But you have to find a way as an account executive or salesperson at a company that does not provide a good service to stay in business. And so, I think when I was an account executive for Conway, I basically walked in and just said, we got great service, take it or leave it, and here's your pricing if you want it. That was basically the extent of my sales, right? And for those companies that really needed it, they would pay the extra, and for those that didn't, they didn't, right? But you wasn't much of a sell, right? But you go to YRC Freight, and it's like, okay, I got to step up my game, right? Because I looked at it and said, I could look at their operations and be like, oh my God, Conway is miles and miles ahead on the operations side. And that's easy to see, especially from the customer's perspective. But getting into sales, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? As a salesman, I don't know shit about this business, right? Because when you're selling a great service product, it's a pretty easy sell, right? Because really, it's just at that point, it's just is somebody willing to pay for the service that you're going to provide? But I'm not spending the next half day chasing down shipments. If you're
on the phone,
if your invoicing is correct, I'm not, going back, checking out accessorials and weight discrepancies. And, because frankly, with Yellow, you're spending half your time chasing your tail on shipments that already happened instead of going out and trying to find new shipments that's what you're paid to do, is go out and grow business.
Right.
So I can just tell you this time that if you worked at Yellow, or, maybe some other carriers out there that, don't have that level of service. If I was looking to hire somebody into my sales organization, yeah. And I think a lot of people look at it that way. That's why you saw so many, like, you can't hardly find account executives out there, especially your age or my age, that you say, oh yeah, I worked at Roadway at one time, or I worked at Yellow at one time. You cut your teeth there.
Right.
And it really helped you become a lot better salesperson.
Yeah, it did.
So
I wouldn't change that part of my history at all.
Yeah. So I think if the jobs are available, I think that most of the sales team should be able to land.
Yeah.
So do you feel confident that you're going to be okay then? I mean,
yeah, I am. Now beggars can't be choosers, right?
Yeah.
You think you'll find something you were doing?
It's hard to say. I think the management positions are harder to find.
Yeah.
But I'm not limiting myself to LTL. I'm looking at the 3PLs, brokerages, truckload carriers. And frankly, I think, all things being equal, if I probably could land outside LTL, I would probably do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, this is a great question for you, Dave, being a customer. Out of everything that you control in a day from a traffic standpoint, whether it's parcel, LTL, truckload, if you ever have to deal with, international, if you're ever bringing in anything overseas, or the whole kit caboodle, what you control, what % of your problems are in the LTL?
Oh man, 90.
Yeah.
90%.
So I think,
minimum.
Yeah. So I think about his perspective, a customer's perspective. And I think, okay, do I want to continue to be part of that problem child? Right. Because we in the LTL industry have to spend so much time putting out fires.
Fixing stuff.
Yeah, fixing stuff. Yeah. And it's just not Yellow. I mean, everybody's got their issues.
Every single carrier.
But, everybody damages freight.
Yep.
Everybody's late on shipments. Now, it's just a matter of how bad you are on damaging shipments and how late you are. But no one escapes it. No. Just the pure nature of what LTL is, it's difficult.
Can we go back? I want to go back to the last month of your employment.
Yep.
What's been, or what was your communication like with your team? And I know that had to be difficult for you on a daily basis.
It was. Communication as a whole, especially the last week, was just not good from up above. And I don't know that I really put that blame. I don't want that to sound like I'm putting the blame on anybody above me, because frankly, you don't have a playbook out there for this kind of situation, right? It's not something that you're doing every day. So to try to navigate these waters when really at the highest levels, you don't know where it's going, right?
Right.
So you know that there's a lot of angst below you from the top all the way down. So you're trying to provide communication, but communication is ifs and maybes, and this could happen, but if this doesn't go this way, it could go that direction. That's just not, at the end of the day, maybe any communication's better than no communication, but when you're just working with that much murkiness, it's difficult, and you're going to have a lot of people that are uneasy. So for me, I guess, for my communication with my team, it was, at least up until the end, it was upbeat. It was trying to stay positive, trying to find the silver lining. Now, and then as it got towards the end, then it was, okay, I'm going to give you guys the facts. Here are the facts here. Okay. So I want you to separate the facts from here. I am going to give you the rumor and innuendo, and then I'm going to give you my opinion. Right. So, trying to manage people, this kind of just goes to heart management, but you have to have people's trust. And part of being trust is you got to be open. You got to be transparent. It's a delicate line trying to toe the line of the company's message, and then also looking out for your people.
Right.
But you're only as good as the people who work for you as a manager.
Yeah.
Your success is 100% laid at the feet of them. You've got, and I've always said this, if hiring people out of my position is the number one thing you can do, because if you've got a team of 10 people and they're all studs, I can be a bad manager. It really doesn't matter, because the studs are they're the ones
that happens a lot.
They're the ones that are carrying the weight, right?
Yeah.
They'll make me look good. But it also works the
Yeah.
opposite. I can be an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
But if I've got 10 duds working for me, it doesn't matter how good I am.
One of the things I learned early on in my I've been an adult working environment for 35 years. One of the things that I realized and it sticks in my head is we all are only as good as who we have around us.
Absolute.
Period. We are only as
Bill
good
had a
as who
comment.
we have.
Allegedly. Well, there's what was that?
Tracy would like that comment.
What do they say?
Cut his mic off.
There's no bad managers, just bad, or no bad employees, there's just bad managers.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand your point. I've been in supervisory. I've had at my past job, I had two guys that were working under me, and I was a supervisor. They were rock stars. We just looked at what we had to get done, and bam. And I've also had where you're just like, these guys are not very fast. This is gonna be a long, and you just work with what you can work with.
Right. Yeah. It's you're. I mean, that's
David,
why it's so important.
What were you saying though?
I was just saying that to Matt's point, that you are only as good as who you have around you. In every scenario, even doing this, doing whatever, you are only as good as who you have around you. And I learned that at a really young age. That's just a mindset that's set in. I mean, you surround yourself with the right people, it's going to go well.
Well, what I kind of think about like that though is with Tony Dungy in Tampa.
Okay.
Built a great nucleus, right?
Then they fired him.
Then they fired him.
And then they won a championship.
And then they win, but then he comes to Indy and wins. So it was never Tony Dungy wasn't the problem.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he built.
But I don't
people
know
around.
that. Did they let? And correct me if I'm wrong.
Because Gruden came
Did
in
they
after
let
him.
Did they let Tony? Did they let him that team long enough to?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
yeah, that's my point.
That's my point
Well,
too.
that
is-
defense
yeah.
was built by Dungy, and that's really,
Right.
I mean, because you look back on that Super Bowl, but
Yeah.
Rob Johnson was the quarterback.
right.
Right.
Now,
Not a very
maybe,
good quarterback.
Now, maybe the missing piece was when, yeah, exactly. When Gruden came in and maybe was able to scheme the offense to get, but that defense, that's what won that Super
That's
Bowl.
what won
and that
it,
was,
yeah.
and that was,
That's what
that
won
was
it.
a Dungy
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
You're listening to the sports part of this.
Well, they always say that defense wins championships.
Yeah.
And I can remember my coach, Keith Kerner, my coach in high school, he would always tell you there's more ways to score on defense than there is on offense.
Which is hard to think about.
If you keep
But you
him
could score
out,
every time on
it
defense.
doesn't matter if you have, like, Rob Johnson wasn't bad, but he
Right.
wasn't the greatest.
Right.
But if you have a team and defense that keeps you keeps them out of field goal range
Yeah.
and they can't score,
Absolutely.
you're not going to win the game.
Yeah. If they don't score any points on you, it's going to be difficult. for
Because
them.
the Ravens, I mean, they're that
Oh, yeah.
defensive
Oh,
team.
yeah.
I mean,
Same
oh
thing.
my God.
Yeah, Trent Dilfer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Denver walked in with Peyton Manning,
Yeah.
and Seattle just destroyed them.
Yeah.
They already had a good nucleus, right? Yeah.
I'm going to revert back to the business portion of the show.
Yeah.
That there's never going to be another yellow. I don't think there's ever going to be another yellow. And by that, from my side of the business, I mean, they legitimately did, in my head, took care of the customer better than any. When I say take care of the customer, I mean, we're going to go grab beers and get a burger and shoot the shit about whatever. They did an excellent job at that. Carriers don't do that anymore, and that is a long gone lost art. I think that there's never going to be another yellow, and I mean that on the business aspect of taking care of the customer.
Yeah. I think. Were you going to say something, Tony?
No, go ahead.
No, I just think and I think the business has evolved, and I even going prior to when I was in it, and you hear, some of the old timers in the '80s, and even going back to some of the '70s.
Back in my day,
Yeah, back in my day, but it was kind of really all relationship, right?
Yeah.
It was almost exclusively relationship, but as time has gone on, I want to say it's turned into kind of a nerdy business, but analytics and being able to come up with solutions, not so much as a salesperson, but a consultant for the customer that can help them get what they need and be able to save money on their budget and make them look good. The days of just being able to entertain and get business, at least in this business, is pretty much done. I mean, there are, places and pockets where that still works, but for the most part, it's. I mean, there's a lot of customers out there that they say, "Hey, our company policy is we can't even go to lunch with you."
I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you see
Profit
that.
and loss. I
and
mean,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that the company I work for has that policy, but I ain't telling that. I'm serious. I ain't telling you shit.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think you're right, though. I think what changed it a little bit was CF, right? CF,
cornflake.
Consolidated Freightways.
Yeah.
I think when they went out, I think it changed the dynamics of the industry a little bit, where it wasn't so much because they were huge. Roadway Yellow, all of them at one point were huge entertainers. You didn't have to have a discount. You could be close,
Right.
but if you did things for the customer that they wanted, then that took care of it. When CF went out, I think that took a big part of that out, where you just had Yellow Roadway doing it for the main part. And other companies did it, don't get me wrong, but not like that, right? Like at Roadway, when I first got hired in, I was required to have 4 lunches a week and 1 entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a goal. And if you didn't do 4 lunches and 1 entertainment a week, they were on your ass about, hey, man, I don't care what your numbers are, but you really need to, your relationship's important. You got to grow that. You got to do that. You got to explain that. You got to establish that. You got to show that.
Way back in the day, there was a time before it went YRC where Roadway, every night of the week, every single night of the week, I was out with Roadway, whether they were entertaining General Foam Plastics or UTI or whoever. Hey, Dave, we're going to be here. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. And it was just again, it was that rapport, that relationship build that was going on. So that's long gone. This is the first time ever. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying that art's gone.
This is the first time ever in my career that I've considered, and no offense, Tony, somewhat considered farming out my LTL. If there's a 3P that comes in and entertains like you guys did, I'm going to consider it. I'm going to consider okay, maybe. I doubt that I do it,
Just
but
because it's not worth the work
because
that you're...
there's not that rapport I mean, I have an excellent rapport with Tony.
Right.
Other than Tony, I got nobody. Absolutely. And that's not a knock at... I mean, but Tony and I have such a long... I mean, we've known each other forever.
Yeah, a long time.
So it's just... Other than Tony, I don't have it anymore. I had it with Tim. I had it with all of my Yellow Roadway whatever reps prior to Tim. And it's just gone. And, and And I know not everybody's.
I guess I hadn't heard your opinion on
It's
this.
a-
I mean,
So if you
how's
listen
this-
to the podcast
yeah.
2 podcasts ago,
Holy
I don't.
cow.
I don't
I think-
to bleep him
and Tony-
out.
I mean, Bill was even like, "Dave, calm down."
Yeah.
I went the fuck off. I'm like, "Fuck
I mean, I think it's a good thing
Yellow,"
because
because I just
Yeah.
Bill, go ahead. I'm sorry.
having those outside things where he can actually call Tim or call you
Yeah.
and get an honest answer.
Yes.
Hey, this is late because of this. I'm sorry
Yeah.
it happened. The truck with the trailer was going down the road. The guy didn't tighten the lug nuts down. The tire went.
Sure.
I wish
And-
most of the time it was tied to maintenance.
I know.
I mean,
We say it a lot.
Right.
but yeah, I mean, having something like that where you could be able to say why it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
that
mean-
was to your point, Bill, too. That was a thing. Like if Tim was on vacation or whatever, I would ever hate to bother Matt, but I would be like, I know you got other stuff going on, but can you look into this? Boom, immediately. Yep, I got it. Take care of it. That's just gone. It's gone.
Francois.
And so
Francois.
So
I'm gonna
all
take a
right,
break.
Okay, all right. We're just doing logistical things here. So, all right. So anyway, so my going back to your question, I'm gonna answer Matt's question about how I feel about this. So the number one thing is that the 30,000 people are without a job is just the extremely unfortunate. I have with no other carrier other than that carrier base or that umbrella have I built relationships, then I built relationships with that group of people. Always. My entire 35-year career, I have always had an outstanding relationship with that base, no matter who it was that worked there, no matter what, and I had some lifelong friends, some great people or whatever. To have 30,000 people out of a job is just a heartbreaking experience. And, the thing that I got mad about like a couple podcasts ago is that I just felt as a company they did a piss poor job of trying to at least say, hang with us, whatever. And I'm not pointing fingers at any certain person or whatever. They just never said we're trying to get through this. It doesn't look well or whatever.
Yep.
Just nothing. There was zero communication, and I'm just like, come on now. And again, I'm not mad at anybody,
Well,
not pointing the
it kinda
finger.
goes to what I was saying too. That we weren't getting any kind of message
Right.
that it was all maybes and could haves, and you're not even as a whether it's me trying to keep a job or you trying to get freight moved, maybes and coulds.
Right.
That's not really giving you an answer.
about 2 union members being on the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when,
Nobody was getting an explanation.
yeah, so
Right,
it was
right.
it was poor all across the board.
Sure. Yep.
And so yeah, I sympathize.
I mean, we started.
Customers, especially customers. I mean, we had customers, and I can think of one customer in Evansville in particular that they only had their business only moved in a regional market, so they had been with Holland for God, I don't know how long, and we did probably 3 to 4 switch outs a day with them, and they basically had to maneuver quickly, right? I mean, they never even entertained or talked to any other carrier. So, I mean, they literally were put on their heels to pivot like quickly, probably with no pricing. And, so yeah, I know it put a lot of customers in a tight jam. It just the whole thing, like I said, was, it was, you go through those emotions of anger and sad and, but like I also said, there's no playbook on this. You don't practice going out of business. It's like, hey guys, I know we're doing great. We operate at a 60. Let's take the next week to just kind of run through some scenarios if we decide to go out of business. You don't practice for that kind of thing. So
As things wound down, like even on the Yellow Logistics side, Cassius that lives out in Kansas City, he sent an email like, it's been great doing business with y'all over all these years. It was a nice kind of way to say goodbye or whatever.
Yeah.
And if he's just like, if you're ever out in Kansas City area, let's hook up and blah blah blah. And I returned the email saying kind of the same thing. If you're ever in the Indianapolis area, let's get out and get some beers or whatever. So yeah, that business model or that rapport with the customers, other than Yellow, there is nobody. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well,
And no
hopefully,
offense,
And I-
Tony.
well,
That's
and I
not a
don't know
knock at
where
Tony at all. It's
I'm
just-
going to land, but
hopefully those will turn into where they can go on to different companies. You
Sure.
can have that.
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Until
There's some
they
companies
fall
that have
until they
potential.
fall into the culture of the new company that if they discourage that kind of thing
Right.
or whatever, but they're going to walk in the door being like, hey, I need to entertain this person, or I need to get X amount of lunches. Ours, you said 4, we had it down to 3 lunches a week was a requirement and 1 entertainment a month. Still, to when we just shut the doors, I mean, that was a sales requirement, was 3 lunches a week and an entertainment a month. Some did more, some did less, especially if they were new and hadn't had the opportunity to build that trust with new customers. But yeah, to the end, it was a huge part of what we did.
Yep.
I didn't know you guys had a requirement to entertain.
Oh yeah. Well, I should say that the last 2 months they cut off they said leave your credit card at home. So we couldn't even spend a penny on our credit card the last 2 months.
The month of June and July.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the last time we could spend money, I think, was like June 4th. Was like the last day. Then
mean-
they told us, hey, that credit card set aside.
That almost thinks they knew it was going to go
I mean,
on.
we still had AEs out there that were spending money out of their own pocket to still take some people out to lunch and entertain some people. But yeah, it was, and that's kind of, when you've got customers that, you had taken out to lunch once a week or, just kind of go cold turkey, and you're kind of also not wanting to say why, you're kind of making up excuses like, well, I got this going on or I got that going on, because you're not wanting to think, well, geez, if you can't even spend a dime on anybody, what's this look like for your company? So our salespeople were put in a very tough position, trying to navigate how do I, at that point it wasn't like, how do I grow the business? Like, how do I not lose the business that I've got?
Because you can keep that guy, you can put him off for so long, and then eventually it's like
Yeah,
used to be every week,
Yeah,
and now we're going on 3
something's up.
weeks.
Something's up. So, yeah, it was difficult, but it is what it is at this point. So, now I will say this. Fortunately, I've got a text chain with all the people that was rolling up to me, and 2 people have already found a job so far this week. I had 12 territories, but I only had 10 people that were. I had 2 open territories that I hadn't filled yet. So, but I had 10 people reporting to me, and 2 of them have already found a job. So, that's great news. And I think I've got several others that hopefully this week will be finding somewhere to land.
So can you fill in next week?
Actually, I'm going to be at Lake Monroe next week.
Okay.
Yeah, so I won't be able to do next week.
So I had to rescue 5 shipments this week, and
How
Monday.
was that?
So far, 3 are rescued. 2 we're still working on 2.
Were they actually available?
Yeah.
Are they on the dock? Somebody's got eyes on it and
Yeah.
knows where it's at? Well, that's good.
So Tuesday's the first time I called about rescuing any of the shipments. And so, immediately I have this mindset of like, what am I going to get? So the phone rings a bunch of times. And finally, I'm going to try to be as correct with this as I possibly can be. A lady answers the phone that sounds like she's in a different country, which immediately pissed me off. And again, I don't mean to make the assumption that she was in a different country, but it just sounded like she was in a different country. So I was immediately
Sure she was.
pissed off.
Probably the cheapest option.
Yep.
So I go, I've got 5 shipments I need to look into rescuing. Let's start with the first pro number. Can you help me? And she's like, yeah, give me that pro. And I knew I'm already looking at the screen. I'm looking at the screen, seeing where it's at. And she goes, well, the company has ceased operations. I'm like, no shit. That's why I'm calling you. And she goes, if you
Really? I
want
didn't know that.
Yeah. She goes, if you want to rescue this shipment, just gave some vague terminology bullshit. And so I immediately hung up on her. I'm like,
So
fuck.
So rescue, that means it's sitting on
It's
a
like
yellow
in
dot.
Yeah, it would be in Indianapolis, and it's not going to move unless I move it.
Unless
it would
you
be at the
go since-
it would be at the YRC terminal in Indianapolis, and I would need to send a local cartage company in to pick that up and take it to wherever.
Because yellow's not going to move it anywhere.
No.
Correct.
Because I think they still have some employees, don't they?
Yeah.
And there's a whole big thing where they have to sign non-compete or something. I've just heard rumors about it.
What I'm guessing is that the few people that were kept
Or
on
non-disclosure.
board, well, my guess is that they're going to get severance, but it's dependent on them finishing the last day, is what it is. So, they can't if they bring it down to like a terminal's literally got 2 people there. Well, they can't have one of those 2 or both those people quit, right? Because now nothing's going to get done. So it's like, hey, you need to sign this saying that you'll stay through the last day and you will get this at the end. So that's what they're probably signing, is to stay on board until the job's done.
So the next morning I call, they say that their hours are from 6 a.m. to whatever Central Time or whatever it was. So the next morning I call and I get this. Hello, this is Mike with Yellow. How may I help you? Which is the tone that I probably should hear. And I'm
Right.
like, Mike, this is Dave with DA. Can you help me rescue some shipments? And he's like, sure. And I could hear the resignation in his voice, and I just felt super bad for him. And so as we went on to discuss all 5 pros, I said, Mike, I got to ask you, how you feeling? I said, I know you're going through a tough time right now or whatever. He goes, kicking the nads. And he goes, I've been here 28 years, and, he goes, I wish I was the part of the first let go, the layoff. He goes, I'd just rather not be doing this right now. And I go, I understand. I completely hear the reservation in your voice and stuff. And he goes, I already have a job lined up for when I'm done here. And it was a nice conversation, but you could easily tell that he was just like,
He'd rather been anywhere else.
yeah, probably fighting in a war in a different country.
Yeah.
Seriously. So, but
It's all he knew for 28 years.
yeah. And then so I asked him, I go, if you don't mind me asking, your 28 years, was any of that with Roadway? Was it all yellow? And he goes, oh, those were all yellow years. And yeah, he goes, it was a nice conversation. I mean, it was teetering to the point where I asked him if he wanted to be on a podcast, but I kind of passed on that one. So I go, wait, I won't try to be whatever. But
Right.
It's
Always
gone,
recruiting.
It's gone okay so far rescuing those shipments. So 3 of the 5 are rescued, and I think Monday we'll be able to rescue 2. So it's just
That's good.
It's an unfortunate experience, but it is nice to kind of get. I've Merle and I have had a little brief kind of social media thing talking about whatever, and it's unfortunate, but it's good to kind of keep up with people and stuff. So yeah, what's that? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Francois. Let's bring Francois in. Yeah, but I wanted to get everything with Matt out. So yeah,
Matt G is a solo podcast.
Hall of Fame.
Oh,
we got
well,
all Hall of Famers.
I'm done
Yeah.
talking.
All right, good.
At least for this subject, anyway.
Let's check in with Francois. Francois, how have you been?
I've been doing very well.
such a
thank
pleasure to see you this morning.
It's an honor to be here.
So I know that we've gone through. I know that there's a strike going on with the actors or
Yeah.
the writers or whatever. So has that put you in a bind with getting your movie done?
It's putting everything down the road. Yes,
Way down the road,
way
probably.
Down the road.
Is that frustrating for you?
It
or-
is very frustrating because I'm getting closer to the end of the beginning when it comes to my life, and
Right.
I want to see the movie done before I go away.
Yeah. Oh.
Which it's a fact of life. It's a realization of so. And as you know, the movie that I got from my book is not about money. It's about leaving a legacy for my grandkids. I have 4 grandkids, and I want their kids and their kids to know who crazy French grandpa was and
Right.
why they were born in America and not in France. It's very important to me for them to know
Coming over
where
on
they
the
come
boat.
from. So yeah, I feel a little sense of urgency, but the strike is going on between the union and the owners and all that. Just everything happened all the time like that. But I just have to be patient.
Are you able to communicate with Logan at all? Or
I
no?
do. I talked to Logan. He's back in Bloomington.
And his spirits are good.
off and on.
Okay.
off and on. He's got so much going on, but at the same time, he can't do a lot. Being part of the union. So he's being patient like everybody else.
With all that's going on with the union, I just wonder if the union is just kind of should it be phased out, or I don't know, phased out.
Is this
or-
a resurgence? Kind of. I'm sorry, Francois. Go ahead.
No.
I mean,
it's a resurgence.
at one point, a union is good. It helped. It done its job, but I don't know if it's still
absolutely,
within the-
absolutely. Union. Just for you guys who out there who don't know, but it all came from France. France kind of wrote the
Sons of
whole.
bitches.
I know, right? Fucking amen. But the union was great because people used to work 60, 70 hours a week, and now the union makes sure that the 40 hours a week was in effect, make sure that
Or
nobody
children.
was working weekend, or children. Yeah, there was a certain age. So union would do a lot of things. So union were very important in the well-being of people. Whether it's good or not now, I don't want to answer that. But it's a pain in the ass for a lot of us.
Yeah. So, and excuse me because I probably haven't been privy to it, but what kind of movie are you making, Francois?
I wrote a book 2.5 years ago. I wrote a book. I published it 2.5 years ago, and somebody approached me to
Called
make
Made
a
in
movie
France.
of it.
The name of the book is called Made in France.
Yeah, Made in France. It's a story of the first 20 years of my life. Why did I leave the French Riviera to move to Indianapolis back in 1979? So that's the answer pretty much to that question,
Wow.
which
Okay.
took about 44 chapters to talk about.
Wow.
And each chapter is the title of a song.
Of a song from the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
Because music, was very important to me, and I'm sure it was important to a lot of
Absolutely.
us. Music with a lot. So every chapter is the name of a song, which means something to the story and vice versa.
So is the
Again,
movie kind of like a flat documentary, or
No,
is it
no,
you're
no,
using actors kind of
using
playing?
actors kind of play. We're planning right now, and Logan told me don't talk too much about your movie, but what the hell, I don't care. I'm not union, so they can't blacklist me.
Dave, you could probably play an acting role, couldn't you?
I wondered. I asked Francois if we can go to France. The times when they shoot in France, and if he needed two Americans, just me and Tony show up with tennis shoes on.
I
Well,
honestly
there's the
think the harder
Americans.
part would
Okay,
be
I don't want to turn down anyone, but the thing is, the movie, like the book, is about the first 20 years of my life. I mean, it ended when I'm 19 years old on my way to America,
Right.
4 days
Oh, wow.
before I turned 20.
So, if you need help with the French thing, and we just have to be winos on the street,
Well,
I am all there.
There you go.
Again, there's going to be a lot of young people in that movie, and I'm not calling you guys old, but
Right.
you're more than 19,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's about my childhood, my teenage years. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of young people in there, except for my dad and my mother, which already I have casted. We're hopeful cast. That's what you call
Sure.
hopeful cast members.
Okay.
So one question for
Yeah.
you, since you are using this is your the movie, the book, it's all taking place in France, right? So it basically ends,
it's all in France.
It ends with you going to the United States,
It
right?
ends July 18, 1979, while I'm in Paris
So,
in the airport on my way to America.
So
Yeah.
everything that is happening is being spoken in French. So, was your movie going to be in French with subtitles, or
No,
were
the
you
movie
going
is
to
going to
actually
be in
go
English.
English?
Yeah.
Okay,
No, American actors. We're planning to shoot about 40% of the movie in France, actually,
okay.
which is going to be a lot less expensive than to shoot in the United States. Case in point, I won't
Yes.
have to. You would have to build a set of Paris or the French Riviera,
Right.
or Italy if we do shoot some Italian scene. In Hollywood, it would be expensive as opposed to go to the country itself, rent a couple of city blocks for 3-4 nights. It's going to be a lot less expensive than to do that.
That's amazing.
Dave, does Dave look much like what your father did back then?
He's trying
No,
for
he
you.
could-
He's
how's your-
trying.
How's your French, Dave?
So is your book? Is it on audiobook?
Terrible.
It's not an audio. I was
Audio
trying
is
to
my
get it
weight
on the
cut.
audio, but somebody wanted me to charge me $16,000 just to make the audio.
Really?
And I say, even if, what about if I read it myself? If I use my voice, you still want to charge me $10,000? So I'd put that one aside right now. I'm getting it translated into French right now to increase the sales in French
Absolutely.
and to create an interest for the movie when it comes out. So I'm doing that. I'm about to hire. I hire a lady who lives in London. She's French, but she lives in London, and she's from a younger generation. So we are going to translate. We are translating the book together. Me, old school, Hale, young generation. So it's a good combination, actually, for the book translation at that point. And she's very excited. And I'm planning to hire for another things, which I'm going to talk about anyway. I'm planning to hire as a European coordinator. That's a title she has. So the movie takes place in the 70s and the 60s, like my book. So she's going to be in charge of finding people who have cars from the period. She's going to connect people in Paris, on the south of France, on the Riviera, in Nice, or other cities to find out, who she needs to talk to, how much it's going to cost to rent a couple of city blocks for 3 days and 3 nights so we can shoot. So that's going to be her job. She's pretty excited about it, considering she's in her young 20s, and that sounds like a cool job for her. So yeah, that's things are happening, and I want to add something, talking about union, non-union. The political situation we have had now, and I am living the dream. The American dream is alive. I came here with $50 in my pocket,
Wow.
one-way ticket, pack of cigarette, and a dream, and I'm living the dream. Totally.
So could you speak any English at all when you came
I
over?
was speaking very much like this, very stupid French accent.
Kind of
how do
Pepe
you
Le
say
Pew-ish in a way.
Pepe Le Pew, exactly, which is politically incorrect to say that
All
word
right,
now.
I'm sorry. I
Come
didn't
on.
mean to.
You can
My
say
bad.
fuck, but you can say Pepe Le Pew. Okay, I'm sorry.
My bad.
Keep
My
up
bad.
with the times.
He was a French romantic. Give him a break.
So yeah, the dream is alive, and to anybody out there, the dream is alive. And I've been through up and down in my life, but the bottom line, and I know it sounds very cliche, but no matter what happens, don't ever fucking give up on anything.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Well said.
So when you came over to the United States and everything's English, and so 79.
American.
I'm-
That was even different because the English I knew was British.
Right. Oh yeah.
And,
So you get
and
all
of
the
a sudden
slang
I came
here.
here, and Jimmy Carter was a president, and I couldn't understand anything about a slow Southern drawl.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Georgian, yeah.
And I live in Georgia for 25 years myself.
Oh, okay.
So I'm more of a Georgia boy than a Hoosier boy.
Okay.
Even though this is my American home, Indianapolis is, and I love that place.
Did you ever eat any boiled peanuts?
Yes, I did actually.
I had one. We was in the South and in Florida, and we stopped at the gas station and had boiled peanuts. And I asked the guy, "Can I?" Nope. One time I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
Right.
My peanuts are dry and roasted. I am not a boiled peanut. I couldn't.
Yes. Yeah. So, Francois, for those few listeners that we have that maybe want to get your book, what's the name of your book and where can they find it?
Well, the name of my book is Made in France. I know it sounds silly and stupid. I had about 40 different titles, but that's the one that I chose. And it's on Amazon.com. That's it. You just put my name, Francois, Francois, Hugon, my last name, Made in France, and it'll pop up.
So going back to Matt's question,
Yeah.
knowing English, I mean, you came over and you didn't know very much English or whatever, or American, I guess.
Well,
whatever
the thing,
right-
when you grow up in France, and I put that part in the book, is when you're 11 years old, you have to learn to speak English. You don't have a choice. That's part
okay.
of growing up. They make you, and it's not a bad thing. After that, after you're 12 years old, you can choose another language. And so I did choose another one, but English was the must. And he was British, but just the same.
Yep.
When you get here, it doesn't matter how much you know it, facing the languages and the
That's what
slang and all that.
That's
is
what I
very
always
different.
liked about the foreign countries. Is they required you to learn
There is.
2 languages.
And English being always the first one, because English is the international language. Number one, definitely. And French being number 2, for those of you who don't know. when you look at the Olympics once every 4 years, the first language is English, the second one is French. Because the
Really?
Olympics were revived in 1896 by a French guy.
Yeah.
You got to change that. It should
So-
only be English.
Yeah,
I would think it would
English
be-
is
That I
still
don't
the
think-
best.
I would thought it would have been
Fine.
Spanish.
So does it catch you off guard if you just happen to hear French being spoke? Does it catch you off guard?
No, I can switch from French to francés al español también, so no me importa nada. So when you speak three different languages, you get to a point that you can switch from one to the other and understand, which is kind of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
actually.
absolutely.
So it's good, and it helps a lot in my job, in my business, which I get people drunk for a living.
Is that your job?
Yeah, ask David about it.
Yep. Very much.
Well, I could see now how the connection was.
But
made.
every Thursday afternoon, I am here in this wonderful place, and
yeah, the
yeah,
great
Thirsty
divide.
Thursday.
and, you know,
Great
I
divide.
sell wine and liquor. That's what I do for a living now.
Yeah, Thursdays
So-
with Francois.
So we have tasting.
Ah,
And that's it. So it's a
okay.
lot of fun, I think. I
yeah,
hope.
yeah. Those
And
are-
that's how we met.
yep,
and
very
some
much
French
so.
Bordeaux, I assume. Some
Absolutely.
Bordeaux, yeah.
Some
yeah.
Bordeaux, some international wine, domestic wine, and wine from all over the world.
So,
Wow.
so Francois, talk about. You used to have family back in France, then.
I do. I still have three brothers and one sister. My parents are long gone, of course. I lost
Some
a
nieces and
sister,
nephews
niece
and-
and nephews is. I was there 2 months ago, and every time I go, I always surprise them. I don't tell them I'm coming, because that's the way I am. So I always surprise them. So I always tell one person I'm coming, just to pick me up in Nice at the airport, and we drive to my sister's house about an hour and a half away from Nice. And so we did this year, and my brother drives me, and I go there, and my sister is like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You surprised me again. I hate you." She gives me a big hug. You know, and 2 minutes later, I have her daughter shows up with her daughter, and 5 minutes later, I have her niece shows up with her daughter, and an hour later, 35 of us are at lunch. So they
Wow.
surprised me this year for the first time ever, which was a nice surprise. But 35 for lunch, yeah.
So-
it's a big family.
So did you grow up in southern France? Then
I
you
did.
mentioned the Riviera.
I
so,
did. I did.
So,
I was born in the south of France, in a city called Toulon, right on the water.
so if you compare like the French Riviera to like I don't know, like Florida and its
Oh,
beaches, I mean, are they similar? I mean, I know
it's-
we're being on the
it's
Mediterranean.
totally different. The Mediterranean is very small, very tiny, and you have some beautiful beaches, but very small. And you have some beaches. See my accent?
Beaches,
I-
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
sorry. Even
You
after
got
44
those
years.
over here too.
Yeah, I know. My accent still get in the way. Hell, my grandkids start making fun of the way I talk, which is fine. But you have a lot of those beaches, you know,
Yes.
especially in parts with a lot of pebbles and stone. So even though the Mediterranean Sea is beautiful, the French Riviera beach is not the best. You do find some very private one, nice one, but it's very crowded. Actually, in the summer, the French Riviera population triple in population because
Really?
all Europe, all the world wants to be on the French Riviera.
Is the weather similar?
The
to South
weather
France?
is let's say compared to Indiana, it's very hot like here, but it's very dry.
Okay.
So the grass is actually yellow
Right.
as opposed to green like it is in Indiana.
How-
There is
how-
no humidity.
how-
It's very
Oh,
dry.
really? Okay. How's the winters?
Dry
The
heat's
winters
wonderful.
on the French Riviera, I saw snow maybe twice when I was growing up, and I was for a couple hours in the morning.
Okay.
You know, but I didn't know. I'd never seen snow until I started to travel.
If you could take one thing from America back to France, what would it be? And if you could take one thing from France
Oh my
to
God,
America, what would it be?
I think I'm going to take the faith on that.
Oh, all right, all right. What about the France to America? What if there was something that you could bring from France to come to America?
You know, you cannot compare one country to the other. They're good and
Good
bad on
question.
both sides.
one thing.
Is there like certain food that you miss from home?
Well,
that- that you can't, you
one
can't
thing.
find it
One thing.
over
I
here?
was in a restaurant business for 30 years.
Oh, wow,
I
okay.
opened 7 restaurants down in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been in the business forever. In fact, if you read the book, you'll see when I was 14 years old, I had my first job in a hotel, and I explained, the 5 years after that, I worked in France. I worked on cruise ship, for example, and So I've been around food, my God, I just turned 64, so for 50 years, actually. God, I'm old. Around food for 50 years. So I love my French food. I love Italian food. I love some of the American food, and there is some French food I don't like. I mean, to me, I'm like a French American, American French. I mean, I
Right.
spent most of my life here on this side of the ocean, 44 years and 20 years in France.
Is there like, I think of like when I think of French cuisine, it's
Yeah,
it's probably the
it is.
it's I'm thinking cheeses and stuff like that. What is there
Well,
like kind of a basic difference in how chefs approach
The,
food
the,
and
the
taste?
French cuisine is more than that. France is very tiny. I think you can put France, France, a country of France in the state of Texas, actually. That's about
right.
the size. But as tiny as it is, you travel for an hour and a half, you have different cuisine, different culture, different accent. It's a small country, but a lot of different specialty culture and cuisine for every part. Like in the south of France, where I come from, it's all about the seafood, the bouillabaisse. I mean, you get the fish at 5 o'clock in the morning from the seller, the fishermen who just come on the market and sell them. So you got all the chefs over here, restaurant that are there at 5 in the morning buying the fish. By lunchtime, it's on the table.
Right.
You go to Lyon, which is in the heart of France, which is nowhere near the sea. So you have more of a buff bourguignon, beef stew if you translate, but bourguignon being the name of the wine in a region. So you have different things. In Alsace, which is close to Germany, it's all about sauerkraut and Riesling. So every region a different specialty, and maybe that's what makes France so good because they're so diversified in food.
Huh.
But the approach of food is really different. When I came here, in France, for example, back in my days, you could take a lunch break for 2 hours, and you had a wine for lunch, you had beer, you had an aperitif, digestif, and you go back to work. Here now, I came here, I didn't know what McDonald's was when I came here. I said, "Wow, you can eat in 30 minutes, shove it down a burger in your face, and have a Coke on ice on it," and to me, that was a culture shock.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're different. I'm not saying one is better than the other one. It's just a matter of finding a way to enjoy both.
Well, I'll
while
say
you're
it.
doing so.
Having a bottle of wine at lunch and being able to go back to work can't say it's a bad idea.
Listen, even when I used to work on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship was pretty intense. I mean, you work 14, 15 hours a day, and you're stuck on the boat to take care of people.
Right.
But lunchtime, dinner time, all the crew, we had beer, white wine, rosé, and red on the table for lunch and dinner. But you don't abuse it because it's not forbidden.
So
It's-
if one was going to go to France,
Yeah.
so be the stupid American
No,
tourist in
don't say
France,
that because you call me stupid because I am a proud American citizen.
What would you suggest if you had enough time to explore France? Where would you say one
God,
one should spend their time?
take us all right now?
Okay. Of course, I'm a little, partial to the French Riviera because that's where I grew up. Even though as a teenager, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where you are. You're a teenager, you want to get the hell out. Okay. But I'm going to answer that question very, in a different way because a lot of people ask me, if I go to Paris, where do I go? It's like somebody called you from New York. Say, if I go to New York, what do
Yeah.
I do? I said, dude, seriously? I mean, New York, Manhattan, Broadway, whatever, do it. So the same thing, they asked me that question, and I've answered that quite a few times. And I said, okay, where are you going to stay in Paris? And they say, well, that hotel. He said, well, change that hotel and go to a hotel where you can see the Eiffel Tower. He said, why that? He said, just go. You go there, check in. You go in there with your wife or girlfriend, doesn't matter. You check in the hotel. The first thing you do, you're going to make love to that person and have her stare at the Eiffel Tower
Yep.
while you make love to her.
Yep.
After that, you go out to the bar. After you take your shower, you go to the bar, you have a drink. At 7 o'clock,
You take a shower?
No. At 7 o'clock, you go out of the hotel, make a right. And
Some
walk
of us
in-
work up a sweat.
I know. Well, and walk.
Bill's on it today.
Walk on to the right until you run into the bar. The first bar you run into, go in and have a drink, and let the adventure begin. Okay, and that's it. And that's the way I look at it. That's the way
good
I've lived
advice.
my life, and it's all about fun.
Right.
My dad used to go to Europe and all that stuff like that, and he used to say his favorite thing was Bob's Youth Hostel, because he got to see and meet common people, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah.
And he'd get a rail pass. You get a rail pass,
Yeah.
you could go anywhere.
Okay.
One of the biggest regrets I have is after high school, he said, "Why don't I get you where I could send you over there for 6 months and you go work on a castle in English countryside or something like that?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." One of the biggest regrets I ever had. I could have took 6 months and went over there and had a blast.
It kind of changed your life. It really does. I mean, I left. I told my dad, "Dad, I'm leaving for 1 year and I'll be back." 44 years later, I'm still here. So, but see, when you read the book, you'll see I was 9 years old when I decided I was going to move to America.
Sounds like me when I
So-
moved to Indianapolis. I wasn't going to be here very long.
Right.
Well, I was here. I did get married. We was a wonderful lady from Indianapolis. I was 21. She was 23. We have 2 wonderful children and 4 grandkids together.
Congratulations.
Now she's my ex. Her decision after being married 42 years.
Oh, wow.
But that's part of the adventure, American
Right.
dream. Now I have an ex-wife.
Yes.
The dream is alive. I'm living it too.
I think everybody's
You
got
know,
one.
45% of marriages end up in divorce,
Yep.
which means it's all about perspective, which means 55% end up in debt.
As long as you be friendly still.
So hey, I believe technically the oldest city in Indiana was originally a French trading post, which is Vincennes. Which
Vincennes.
how would you say Vincennes? Vincennes would be pronounced what in French? How would you say that?
Vincent.
Oh, is
Wow.
Vincent.
okay. So you don't really put the S at the end.
No, you don't.
Okay.
Vincent.
That's it.
And by the
Okay.
way, I teach French too. That's
Oh,
one
really?
thing.
Okay.
If you read the book, you'll see that when I was 16, I left high school. I decided to do other things, such as making money. And my dream was to be an English teacher, which I did.
And I'm fairly certain you have a college degree. Too,
Well,
right?
that's the
Or-
thing. The part
sorry.
that is not in the book is that I did graduate. Gee, I don't even speak English. I did graduate from Georgia State University when I was 40 years old, and I've been teaching French for about 20 years
Wow.
now. So I turn around the dream, and I'm teaching French as a hobby, and I'm having a ball with that.
Well, you also in southern Indiana have Versailles. What do
Ver-
they call it? Versailles, right?
Versailles.
Versailles. Okay.
Ooh.
And
We're
then-
gonna run out of
now,
power
is it
soon.
Vive or Vive? And that's French too, right? That's,
Vive.
So
well,
Purdue,
do you know that town in southern Indiana? It's
This one I don't know.
yeah, it's Vevay. I mean, I thought it was French.
Vavay.
Y.
Vive. That would be Vive.
so
yeah.
producer Tony, what was it? I'm sorry. What did you just say?
We're going to run out of power soon.
Oh, okay.
Soon.
all right.
What do you mean? Run out of power or?
15 minutes.
Okay, let's. All right. This has gone too. This is just goes well. This just goes really well. I mean, wow. All right. Let's keep talking to Francois. I mean,
Well, let's
at
talk
least-
about anything and everything.
Yeah. So the one random thought that I did have for if we want to pop into this will probably take up some time too is the Big Ten is expanding to 18.
Yeah, I saw that.
Is it still the Big Ten, though?
Right.
Listen,
Right.
If you want to start
Oregon and
talking
Washington.
college football, you're talking to the right guy here because number one, go Dogs, Georgia.
I figured that's what
My
you were
daughter
gonna say.
went to
That's why I
Georgia.
brought it
My
up.
son went to Georgia Tech, and when you're down there south and you see ACC football, you come to a Big Ten. It's like a Division II football. Whoa, there go trash talking. But you know
Wow.
what? This is what
Wow.
college football is all about.
it
It's
is.
about
Yep,
trash
that's part of
talking.
it. Yep.
They
It's-
do win most of
it's
the
fun.
Yep.
championships.
Yep. All
Well,
good.
the last two time Georgia, I can't beat Notre Dame, and it was fun for Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Always,
And we're going
That's
for
right.
3 peats.
So you do have to wonder what. I mean, are you gonna? Is it Notre Dame gonna stay an independent, or does anybody
probably
care
not.
anymore? Does
Well-
anybody care anymore? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Right,
it
right.
makes it kind of weird for us to see all the changes because we grew up here, and remember when the Big Ten was a Big Ten.
Yep.
When Purdue was a powerhouse. IU never was actually, except in 2020, but nobody cared there.
Georgia sucks ass.
Actually, this sucks.
Wow.
Well, yeah, you can say that, but in the meantime, we're back-to-back champion.
Boom.
Okay.
Wow. All right.
I don't see any Big Ten team lately.
Put me on the suck train on that
You
one.
guys, Division II football. How could you anyway?
They suck ass, but hey, we're still champions.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Wow. So I
Who's
mean,
going to win it this year?
No, I said they won't.
Why not?
Yeah, it's
Why
possible.
not?
Maybe they will.
yeah, who knows?
Why not?
Yeah.
It'll be a first time in history. It'll be great.
Is there nothing better than I just to me
College
that is
football,
the
yeah.
sport?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Even though college players do get paid now,
Right.
it's still. I like the speed, the fastness of the game.
Well, you could say in the SEC that wasn't nothing new. They've been paying their players for years.
Well, yeah, especially not ACC, ACC, ACC.
Oh, you're saying ACC? Well,
No. But I just
Oh,
switched to
okay.
ACC.
Okay,
The
yeah.
Florida State Criminals.
Yes.
Those have been paid for a while, definitely. Any Miami
I think
team,
pretty
anyway.
much once you get south of the Ohio River,
Yeah.
it's been paid for a while.
Well, Florida, the Canes, the Knowles, and whoever out
Yeah.
there played. Miami, Florida.
It's all when you
different
get
state.
caught. It's not a foul until you
Yeah,
get
I
caught.
Yeah.
But now you don't get caught anymore. I feel sorry for all those guys that were caught, and now it's okay
Yeah.
to pay them. So hey, it's a different world. So anyway,
so
things
now-
are
I have
changing.
a bigger
Yeah.
issue just with the transfer policy than I do
Yeah.
the paying part.
Where-
I just
where-
wish they could lock in for 2 years. Just give me a 2-year
Yeah,
commitment.
they
As
should.
you're going in as a freshman, finish your sophomore year, and then if you want to transfer, give everybody one free transfer. Now, or I guess if your coach leaves, you put an exception on it. If
Yeah,
the coach leaves,
true.
you could leave.
Or
But
your coach puts a harassment policy,
well, yeah, I mean, if you got something,
like Northwestern.
oh yeah.
I mean, like if you're the starting tackle and you want to leave.
One minute. Yeah. If we want to talk about the Northwestern thing, the last person you need to be worried about is your job. If I'm the dad of a child that went there to play, and whether you mentally mess with my kid or physically mess with my kid, you should be worried about me.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
saying. Anyway, let's talk about So 18 teams in the Big Ten now. So
Yeah,
Well, now it's going to be how many now? Like
three. That's
some going to Big 12.
There's going to be three separate to, 18, 9 team in each part.
It's
insane. It's
so the
insane.
SEC went to just one. So I mean, wouldn't it make sense to just go everybody? I mean, the Big Ten used to just be one. I mean, wouldn't it make sense to just
You play your rival every year.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
you play your rival.
rivalry November day, which is
IU
beautiful.
plays Purdue.
when
Michigan's
Georgia
playing.
played Georgia Tech. Michigan played that
Yeah.
other team.
Yeah, the rivalries will still be there, but
Right.
if you start separating it, then you don't have a Big Ten champion. You don't have something that the coach can hang his hat on to get his job because we've got more bowl games. I mean, we got colleges playing bowl
That's all
games that
about
have got
money. All about
a
money.
4-8 record.
right.
Bottom line, it's all about money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's on YouTube. On YouTube, there's a SEC Shorts, a kind of group of SEC fans that poke fun at the SEC, and when they went to just the one conference versus the divisions or whatever, they're like, well, all right, well, what are we going to do now? What did we do then? Well, the top two teams, the winner of the East went and the winner of the West went. What are we going to do now? Take the top two teams. Oh, okay. So, I mean, why didn't the Big Ten just go to one, just everybody? I don't know what the right answer is.
It's
I'm just saying.
complicated when you're 18 teams. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And now they're spread all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast, all Rutgers, all the way to Oregon. Anyway, yeah, here we go. All right. So, and as much as we or I or whatever don't want to do this,
The producer's calling time.
Yeah, We got to call time on this one. So it's been a great show. Matty Ice, we wish you nothing but the best.
Appreciate it.
Bill, go ahead. Bill, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, only thing I have coming up is in 2 weeks I will be taking the entrance exam to be able to go to the rodeo again. So maybe I won't be number 2 anymore. And next week is Technician Appreciation Week.
Appreciate your technicians next week only.
I've been working really hard with some of our.
Where is the rodeo this year? Is it South Carolina?
Actually, I did find out it is in Richmond, California, which is across the bay from San Francisco and north of Oakland.
Yeah.
Brand new state of the art facility.
So do you plan on being number 1?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just too much to say. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Next thing you know,
So
I
I
didn't
know,
make
I
it.
know we're
then-
crunched up on time here, but is this like a regional, like a local and then regional and da-da-da, now you've made it to the national thing?
It's broken up into 4 regions: Northeast, South, and West.
Okay.
2 from each region get to go, and then there's warehouse guys that get to go, and then there's drivers that get to go,
Okay.
and then it's an
I thought we were out of time. What are we doing?
all expense paid trip with your wife to
Yeah.
go to California for a couple days.
With who?
Jeez.
Stay out of downtown Oakland.
I'm not really sure I'm going to venture too far.
Hey, go north.
I mean,
go
like-
into Napa area.
My wife and my daughter have a thing whenever we get into a new town, the first thing you want to do is go check out the local Target because there's something different there. And I'm like, we got to Richmond. The first thing she wanted to do, she got rested up. She's like, let's go to Target. I was like, really?
Now that's an American thing right there.
Yes.
I doubt anywhere in France that they're like.
Well, it's a new.
Would it be Target? How you say Target in French?
Is it Target a French company?
I really don't know.
I just
But the
I'd
thing
heard.
about talking about generation, my niece, nephews, the next generation French, they go to McDonald's, which to me is crazy. But the thing about McDonald's in French, you can order beer and wine. So yeah.
We need that here.
But no, to
There
Matty,
you go.
to
There's
Matty,
the one thing you need to bring from France right there.
Burger Royale.
a Royale with cheese.
Royale cheese.
Isn't to Matt's point? Isn't Taco Bell opening a cantina downtown Indy that's going to serve beer and wine?
I've heard
I
rumors
think,
on
or
that,
no?
but I haven't
they
seen
were.
it yet.
I don't know. I haven't heard about it.
Because
But,
when you think Mexican food, you think Taco
Tequila.
Bell.
Yeah.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell
So
tequila, brand tequila, Taco Bell.
I think we're winding up here. To producer Tony's kind of right.
I had, yeah.
All right. So again today we're
I'm
producer.
going to ask James about the Warren Act.
Oh, okay. So we're broadcasting from the Great Divide. They're kind enough to have us in today and use us as they let us use us as our sponsorship too. So we're greatly appreciated. James and Jen, the owners of the Great Divide, are here today, and we're gonna get James to sit down and kind of give us a little bit of information on the Warren Act. Right? This is what we're going to talk about? Okay. So all right. Right. So, James, it's good to have you on today. Thanks for having us into the Great Divide. So, we're going to ask about the Warren Act. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. In correlation with yellow. So, we'll turn it over to James.
Oh, well, I'm James. My wife and I own the Great Divide.
Yay.
But I'm also an attorney and familiar with the Warren Act, but it's incredibly boring.
Well, so are we.
It essentially requires advance notice prior to massive layoffs. And but my understanding, I've been eavesdropping on their podcast as I work around the tavern, One Yellow, I think is their name.
Correct.
Yeah. They're in a pissing match with the union, and it's pressed them because they couldn't refinance their massive debt. That they're threatening bankruptcy and may have declared bankruptcy even as of yesterday. But in any event, it may be a negotiating tactic with the union to see if they can knock them back a step. But if they go into bankruptcy, their major obligation will be with respect to wages and things like that. But the Warren Act essentially requires that they provide advance notice prior to massive layoffs. I believe off the top of my head that it may be 180 days. And if they fail to comply with that, there are penalties. But if they go into bankruptcy, the penalties will be handled through the bankruptcy court. Wage claims are given a priority with respect to creditors in the bankruptcy. But I did look while these guys were talking. I'm installing new kitchen appliances, so I didn't hear it all. But if they do go into bankruptcy, the wage claims would come first. But any Warren Act penalty, I'm not quite sure how that's handled. But I did see that the stock actually rose on the announcement of their impending bankruptcy. I don't know if that means that they're asset heavy and liquidation is the greater value, or whether they're thinking that this is a step toward reorganization and that they'll be leaner and meaner when they come out of it. So,
It'd still have to be a Teamster.
yeah, so I'm not sure where they're going, but if you're looking from the top down instead of from the inside out, I would think it would be a negotiation tactic. People talk about too big to fail, but I would estimate that they're probably talking 20, 30,000 jobs.
30,000, yeah.
30,000 jobs.
22 of those are union.
Yeah, so I would tend to suspect that this is a negotiation tactic, and they're threatening to liquidate in order to have a better stance with the union as to what their ongoing obligations are. And if they come out leaner and meaner from the bankruptcy, they'd be able to stuff down some of their creditors and restructure their internal financing and maybe strike a better deal with the union as to wages. So I know that had nothing to do with the Warren Act. So, but the motivation is always the thing. If you look behind the scenes and try to figure out where they're trying to go,
Right.
From the company's perspective, they've probably got excessive debt and too many assets, but something's driving the stock price up. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite understand why that stock price.
Yeah, and that's
comes.
where I was lost too.
And who's the? I hate to be whatever. Who the fuck is profiting off of that stuff? It just drives me nuts when I see
I
that it
think
goes.
it's a struggle to figure out who's going to be incurring most of the assets once it's all liquidated, and then who's going to walk out with the most.
Yeah.
I think at this point it's just a positioning game.
And who's lumped all that money in there? Whatever. Just saying. Whatever. What do we think of producer Tony?
I think we are out.
So, are we still recording though? Are
Yeah.
we still going. So, I want to thank. First off, I want to thank Matty Ice for being here. Bill, it's appreciated.
Bill,
Number two,
yeah.
Francois, thank you for being here. And then
Matty
a
G.
huge thank you to the Great Divide for their continued support to our podcast. Thanks for having us in today. I'd like to do this probably maybe a little bit more often than what we do, if that's a feasible thing to do.
It is.
And thank you very much to you. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Always very supportive of everything that we do. And if you're ever in Indianapolis, swing by the Great Divide. Tell them that the Ships can.
What's the address?
Podcast 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. It's an awesome place to go to and
Absolutely.
Get
You
some
were
drinks
the
and some
one that
food and
introduced
some-
us to the place.
Right.
We got the
Yeah.
small glass.
You know.
Right, we got the
Small
small
glass.
If you want a
Love
glass.
glasses.
And James, thanks.
There are, what do we got here? We got probably about 10-ish empty beer
Yeah.
bottles laying around.
And James,
So,
thanks for explaining that, because that's
Yeah,
like
no,
a big
completely.
deal
Oh,
And you're a lawyer. You're a professional lawyer, and you've handled cases. And it was only New York and California that filed those Warren Act charges against them. So,
oh.
Yeah.
I'm actually not familiar with any of this. I was just
yeah,
eavesdropping
no,
on
you're
your.
obviously knowledgeable about it.
But the Warren Act probably get the Justice Department involved because they basically administer that. So
Yeah.
whether you're restructuring or going into bankruptcy, if it involves plant closures or massive layoffs, the Warren Act is implicated. So, but if they actually go into bankruptcy, that'll be one of the claims that's administered. So
He brought up two points that I thought of that I didn't think of earlier, but actually he nailed it a little more, needled it. I thought about it, but I didn't really. But hearing him today makes me think a little more about it. So as we were talking about, they always wanted to be smaller, right? They could go through bankruptcy and restructure into something else. I mean, that could happen, right?
Yeah.
Who would?
Well, one of the things is I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you come out again, I don't know how the math on this works, but there's going to have to be some debt that's going to have to be taken care of
Right.
before you come out on the backside of that. And
That's true.
there is a lot of debt. Now there is more assets than there are debt.
So how much do you think YRC or Yellow Logistics was worth? Because they never broke it out on a page.
Now I don't know how you do it, but it was probably, I would say Yellow, it was close to a $4.7 billion organization. Yeah, billion. And I would say that Yellow Logistics was probably responsible for a few $100 million, if
Okay.
that. It might. I don't even know if it was over
Okay.
$100 million, but
Yeah.
let's say it was $100 million. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket compared to when you're talking about four
Right.
something billion.
Even with our labor shortage we got going on now, are you going to be able to get people to believe enough in the company to come and
Probably
Well,
not.
yeah. I mean,
Probably
you've got a lot of obstacles to jump, and then you're still at the end of the day. From what I understand, the Teamsters have part of the contract says is that if you go through this, you have to go 1 year before you could reopen.
1 year
the
and 1
company.
day, right?
Yeah, before you could reopen the company as a non-union company. So, I don't know. I really don't. I think in my opinion, it's just everybody's playing their cards to get as much out of it as they can when it
can,
liquidates, and I think that's it.
Well, I'm outside the industry, but isn't One Yellow specialized in the sense that they don't run one truck from one shipper to one destination? They break up their loads.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a LTL,
Yeah.
and it's
Exactly.
but there is a stiff competition in that, and for the most part, I mean, I know OD probably operates in the high 70s, low 80s, but
72.
it's a yeah.
Dude, it's
It
But for the-
baffles me.
but-
It effing baffles me. 72%. Who does business with them anyway?
But for
sorry,
the
go
most
ahead.
part, it's a low margin business. It's a
Well, I would think that they're probably facing competitions from everybody
yeah.
from Amazon down. I see all the trucks running out with stuff.
yeah.
And maybe they're simply trying to reorganize to downsize.
right. Yeah.
You liquidate assets, you cut your workforce, and if they ran into a stone wall
Maybe,
with the union, then maybe they just said, well, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, maybe they're worth more dead than alive.
Yeah, you would have to
mean,
negotiate out that
Well,
union.
that's a good
maybe
point,
if they want
James.
to throw the union a couple $100 million, they'd probably let you out.
Right.
Well, if they own all their real estate and a lot of other assets, they could probably go into a Chapter 11.
There you go.
It depends on what they file, right?
There's the only other thought now. That's why Sean O'Brien did it. It's figure he could just get a couple $100 million out of a buyout, getting out from underneath that contract off of bankruptcy. That's it.
Ouch.
And reopen the company as
Yeah.
a non-union. Wouldn't that be
He
funny?
wouldn't want
Yellow,
that.
the non-union carrier.
That would never happen.
No. Like say, hey guys, made a nice little profit.
Hey. Well, thank you for David.
So I
thank you for
intentionally
hooking
wore
this
this
up.
jersey today as a conversation starter, and not one of you MFers brought it up.
We,
That is
we-
a Montreal
it was
Expos
content
day.
before the show.
It is. Yeah, but it was content. I
Yeah.
didn't wear it to talk about it before the show or after the show.
Hold it, wait. Is that a Montreal's Expo?
Yeah, it's
jersey?
when they were with the
It was
Expos.
when the Indianapolis Indians were they used to be the AAA affiliate of the Montreal Expos, and this jersey.
You would have seen
Style.
Randy. You would have seen Randy Johnson.
And I can give the list: Randy Johnson, Marquise Grissom, Delano DeShields, Larry Walker, Andres Galarraga. And probably I'm probably missing some names.
I feel like their jerseys fit a little differently than yours did.
I hate all of you. God, I hate all of you.
Hey,
Jesus.
they looked better in their jerseys.
And
Just gonna
this is back when the Indians played at Busch Stadium, which was an iconic, iconic
absolutely.
stadium. This is
It was like a small Wrigley.
for those of you that aren't familiar with Busch Stadium in Indianapolis. You can watch the movie. Is it 8 Men Out? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
You can watch and
Yeah,
that was
8
part of
Men
that
Out.
movie was filmed at Busch Stadium.
Victory, yeah, Busch Stadium.
I mean, they didn't. Never mind. Anyway, yeah.
You've had that
Razor
since high
shines.
school and it
No,
still
I
looks
have
good.
Not. I have
You-
not. I just bought it.
Oh, it's retro.
I just
Hey,
bought it. I hate
Tony,
it.
he can still pull business from you. He can't pull
I
business
know.
from me.
I know. You can be more mad, more angry.
Well, I should say that John Cusack looked a little different in that jersey.
Yeah, there's boom. Even from the owners of the Great Divide. Why do I keep coming? Bam!
Oh my God, you do not look like John Cusack.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, it's been the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast, episode 1112.
Thank you again to everybody for
112.
showing up. Thank you to the Hall of Famers for being here. Thanks to the Great Divide for being Hall of Famers today and having us in. And let's do this again soon.
We are out. Thank you. Have a good weekend.